welcome back to Life Under Deborah's Palm, where today in the dementia portion of this program, we are going to discuss how to help the caregivers, whether someone's in assisted living or if they're caregiving them at home. Don't care. Either way, here's the do's and don'ts of what you can do. Stay tuned. I'm going to start by discussing how to help somebody who has a loved one in assisted living already. Yeah, maybe the worst of it's kind of over, but they still could use a hand. There's still a lot, if you don't know this, when someone's in assisted living, there's still a million things that you end up making decisions. Absolutely, life is way easier, but still, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. So the first thing I'm going to talk about in assisted living placement, if you're going to go visit the loved one, I'm going to start talking about what not to do, please, and thank you in advance. If you're family and you go visit, whether you come in from out of town or you live in the area, whatever the case may be, please do not nitpick everything in assisted living. You will always find something incorrect, things that are wrong, things that aren't the way you'd love them to be. But I have a garbage truck going by my house right now. Maybe we'll wait for him. Okay, so please don't nitpick everything. You have to realize the caregiver's already gone out and found a place to live and moved them and done all this stuff, and to listen to you complain, really, we've had enough. So stop right there, especially if you really had nothing to do with picking the place. We do not give every single detail of what we went through to find a place and what goes on a day-to-day basis. We just don't bother. We have to repeat ourselves 1,000 times, and it gets, after we just got done with the rest of it, gets very tiring. And even though they're in assisted living, we still make a whole bunch of decisions. We get calls for things like we have to give approval for flu vaccines and COVID vaccines, and we get phone calls that they're having behavior problems, they're changing their medicines, they're out of Depends, they're out of toothpaste, they've thrown their toothbrush out, they need clothes, they don't have any socks, they can't find their sheets. We get all those calls. We're already dealing with that all the time. And what I found out is a lot of people just don't understand assisted living. And I mentioned this in one of my earlier videos, where things like their trash, if they want to set empty cups and crap all over the room, they don't always get picked up by housekeeping because it is their property. And you couldn't do stuff like that around my mother-in-law. If you did not pick her stuff up, because she would tell you right there, then and there, that she was perfectly capable. What we used to have to do was my husband would distract her for a little bit, and I would go in with garbage bags and clean everything out and clean the refrigerator out. Calling and telling us that the place isn't doing what they're supposed to be doing and complaining to us instead, why don't you just pick up the trash? Why don't you clean out the refrigerator if you think you can? Sometimes they'll let you do it and sometimes they won't. But instead of calling and complaining to us, just get a bag and pick up the stuff or correct what's wrong. Or if you notice, hey, they're almost out of toothpaste, if you can't pick it up, could you at least give us a buzz beforehand and let us know, so that the next time we go up, we know what to bring. If you are visiting constantly, please stop. It is really difficult for the dementia patient to get into a groove, and the more you do for them, the less they will remember to do. And we had an incident with that, and we also had an incident where, well, I guess we didn't have the incident, but our case manager explained to us that they had a family that came in, someone moved in from out of town and decided they were going to come hang with their loved one every single day and do everything for them. And what that does is speeds up the disease in terms of forgetfulness. and it speeds up how quickly they will head to a nursing home. So please do not overcompensate for your time that you haven't been there. Things like that, it does really make it difficult in the long run. We also ask you not to leave perishable items in their refrigerator, especially if you have taken them out to eat and they have, a leftover half a chicken breast or something. They're not going to remember that, and they're not going to know when they open the refrigerator. They're not even going to know to open up the container and look at it. We're looking at foodborne illness, possibly. We're also looking at the fact that it will begin to stink, and like I just got done saying, that they don't really clean the stuff out for them. Please don't leave perishables in their refrigerator, especially those kinds of things. And don't nag the aides. Please don't nag the aides. Pretty please don't nag the aides. We've been in situations where it got real grumpy and miserable, to the point where we got a constant phone calls from family member who was like, well, this is wrong and that's wrong and I don't like this and they didn't do that and blah 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 blah, and to the point where they started to get into their medical issues, and they were ragging on the aides and going after everybody and driving everybody nuts. Literally, we did not know what to do, and they couldn't do anything. They weren't on the paperwork. They weren't able to deal with their medical issues, and they were just chasing everybody around, to the point where we got to where we discussed it with a caseworker at the time and said, what can we do? So the first thing we did was, all the aides were informed there's a HIPAA violation. They are not allowed to discuss it. If they had any questions, they were to call us. So you can always play the HIPAA card if you have somebody who's just being a punk in your family. The other thing is, and we almost got to this at one point, where we needed to limit the person. You actually have the right, as the caregiver, or health proxies, or whatever, POAs and all the things that you are, have the right to say, you can visit once a week for 1 hour. We could do things like that. Thankfully, it didn't come to that, but it got pretty darn close. So if you are a caregiver and you have people that are being like all crazy, work with the facility and see if they'll help you out with that, or what they can and can't do in their scope, and the best you can do with somebody who's being incredibly difficult. Yeah. So here's some things you can do when you go up, and things we would appreciate. We would appreciate a phone call or a text, or shoot up a flare, a smoke signal, something, and just say, hey, on Tuesday I plan on going to visit, because one, make sure they're there. Like we don't have something we need to do, or take them out, or take them to a doctor appointment. We'll make sure they're there. Plus, we were visiting, or still are visiting, every week. If we know that somebody else is visiting or taking them out someplace, it kind of is a week we can sort of skip going sometimes, depending on the situation. But also, medical things change sometimes pretty rapidly, and if you were planning on going up and taking someone out, well, all of a sudden there's an issue going on where they really shouldn't go out, you also would want to know that before you get up to the facility. Also, it would be really nice, especially for family more than friends, but family, if you say, hey, I'm going up, does our loved one need anything? Like, hey, bring them a case of water, bring them a couple snacks, or I think they need some toothpaste, or they were out of shampoo, or if there's something like that, it's really helpful to us. And for the caregiver, reimburse them for spending their money, because personally, I don't spend my money on my mom, and I wouldn't expect anyone else to either. That's the reason there is money set aside. Home care. If you are caring for your loved one at home, God bless you, because that is just the hardest thing to do. So, for those of you who want to help the caregiver, okay, the same don'ts apply that I just got done. Don't nitpick, don't get in their shorts. You have no idea what it's like to live with someone with dementia who is repetitive and in things and putting the milk in the cupboard and all the craziness that we go through with that. But here's the thing for those who really want to help, whether you're friends or family, things that somebody who is caregiving dementia 24/7, literally 24/7, and they really don't get a break. Even if they do, even if a loved one goes to, let's say, a day facility a couple days a week or something, it's still a really hard, stressful thing. There's so much stuff to do, and there's never enough hours in the day. I know this year for us, we have done things that we have not done in like 3 years, like wash our windows and wash our curtains and stuff like that, because we were so busy that we didn't have time. And once my mom went into assisted living, now we're just looking at stuff like, we didn't do this for a year, we didn't do this for 2 years, this stuff's just ugh, and we need to deal with it. That's what happens. A lot of things just fall by the wayside because there's no time, and you have to choose what's, you know, I guess make an order of what's really important and what can wait. But if you want to help somebody, number one, I'm going to tell you this, they're probably not going to take your help because that's how we all do it. I think we just get this idea like it's just our responsibility. And, you know, yeah, family we would expect some things from, but maybe friends or friends of our loved one, we don't expect so much. But I know for a fact it would be appreciated. So I'm going to tell you the best way I think to go about helping caregivers and some of the things you can do for them, especially when you're, you know, out of state and it's your mom and one of your siblings is taking care of them, things like that in the home, especially in the home. Once they're in assisted living, it's a little easier. But here's what I would suggest if you want to help someone who is living with a dementia patient. First of all, don't give the caregiver an out. Don't say, hey, if I can do anything for you, let me know, because we all aren't going to let you know. And that's kind of the same with any disease. I think we just don't. So the better thing to do would be something like, let's talk about dinner. Cooking when you've run all over all day long and had a really horrible day. The last thing you want to do is cook. Can you make something that you just simply drop off? You just call up and go, hey, I got a pan of lasagna and meatballs. If you want it tonight, I'll pick up some bread and bring you a salad, or just something that also might freeze real easy or portion off, you know, things like that. That's really helpful. If you're in town, whether you're a family member or a friend of the dementia patient even, is the person with dementia still able to go out? So could someone come, swing by, take him out for an hour or two, get a cup of coffee, take him for breakfast, although you might have to help him with the menu? Or maybe you could get an ice cream. But be forewarned, if you're gonna get ice cream, no ice cream cones. Cups. They'll have it everywhere. Cups. But if you could do something like that, just get them out of the house for a few minutes, gives everybody a break. It makes a world of difference in a dementia patient. Socialization is huge with this disease. If you are an actual family member, maybe like a sibling, it's your parent, can you take them to your house? That can be a little touchy. Sometimes it doesn't work real well. Don't forget, dementia patients will become very used to the place they live in and the people they live with. And even though you're their daughter or their son, they're still not used to you. There's a rhythm in the house, and when you take them out, you may find it much harder to deal with. And that's kind of a touchy thing. I would also say that if you could go to, let's say it's your sibling that's taking care of them, your sibling's house, and they could get out and, I don't know, go someplace for the weekend and you could stay in the house, that would be really helpful. But I will warn you now, get there a day or two ahead of time and get used to the way they're taken care of and the way they behave. And understand this, as soon as the normal caretakers leave that house, you're gonna have to kind of find your way. don't be calling the people that you just let go on vacation every 5 minutes and ask them what to do, okay? Yeah, it's hard. They already know that. And you're going to struggle with it because you've never really done it probably, and everybody's a little different, but you're just going to have to suck it up for a few days. And remember, they suck it up every single day. If you are in the area, just come over and do stuff. Don't even ask. You know, come cut the grass. Come shovel the driveway or run the snowblower, or come on over, make a work day, clean the windows for them, just do something. There's a lot of things that they would show appreciate. And I will say this, a lot of us are caught in what they are now calling the sandwich generation, where there are kids at home and they're taking care of parents as well at the same time. It is super hard. And I would say, if you are maybe a friend of the caregiver and maybe your kids are friends or something like that, send the kids over. Let them cut the grass once in a while, especially if they have something to do. I know a lot of high schools now require community service to graduate, volunteer work, things like that. Maybe they could make a schedule of some sort that would qualify for their school graduation and help out your friend. And you just say, hey, you know, I'm going to come over, or Johnny filled out his thing and here's what he's going to do. He's going to cut your grass, vacuum, dust, help with whatever you want for 1 or 2 hours a week, or however that all works. If you're out of town, out of state, like just too far away, and you want to do something for maybe your siblings that are taking care of a mom or dad, you know, another option is, do they have someone who comes and sits? You know, there's a lot of caregivers that will come and hang out with them. If that's the case, you know, could you get them something like gift cards for dinner and movies, and they can go out when they want to and just get out and get away for a little while? And could you do something like get their house cleaned? If you didn't know this, a lot of companies that clean houses have gift card options, and you can call and talk to the person. I've done it. I've called and said, you know, what's your rate? And they'll say, if you want this done, this done, this done, blah, 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 gift card for X number of dollars, we'll do it. That would be really helpful. Also, if you're out of town, could you do something like order a week or two or whatever of something like a meal prep company like a HelloFresh or Blue Apron or one of those? I don't know. You know, everybody's financial means are different, but it's some things to think about. If you're out of town and your siblings are dealing with it, you know, you could call, make sure they're home, see if they're having a tough night, whatever, and call a local restaurant. A lot of them have family bundles, you know, for 4 or 5 or 6 people, and you can choose the family bundle and have it delivered to their house. Things like that are pretty big. You know, 2 years ago, my husband and I went on vacation for 3 weeks. The only reason we could go do that for 3 weeks was because my brother, who lives out of state, agreed to come up and stay. And he did, and that's why we went. If you have that means, that's great, and I really think you should do it. You have no idea, probably. If you've never been through this, you absolutely have no idea what it's like. But he came and stayed and hung out in the area. My mom was not in assisted living yet, but he was here to make sure she was okay and help her and keep her moving along. And he also, while he was here, because there was nothing else to do, he did a lot of stuff for us. He installed ceiling fans and painted our porch and scraped our paint and caulked stuff and I don't know, a whole bunch of little stuff that we simply did not have the time to do. So those are some ideas for you. Meal prep's a big one. House cleaning's a big one. Just getting away. Imagine 24/7 you cannot get away from. Repetition, from sometimes arguing, depending on their behavior of the dementia patient. it's really hard to live that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And if you are a sibling and you have said, hey, you know, I'll come take mom or dad or whoever for 3 or 4 days or whatever it is you've run your mouth about, how about you make good on it and actually go do it? And if you are one of the siblings that has been made that promise where they said they would come, if they haven't shown up, maybe one of the things is you should just say, hey, we'd like to go away for 3 days. We really need you to come take mom or dad or stay in our house with mom or dad for 3 days. Let's pull out our calendars. Because sometimes that's what it takes. It's just people go, yeah, I'll do it. But if no one asks them to do it, they just don't necessarily do it. So sometimes we get aggravated about things, but we haven't really asked, and we just assume somebody was going to step up and say that, and it's not always the way it works out. So I hope this gives you some idea of things on how to help them. You know, I know a lot of people really do want to do stuff that truly are 2, 3, 4 states away, across the country, wherever, and they just don't know what to do. So I would say, you know, gift cards, sending a meal, stuff like that. It's really very, very much appreciated. I know it was for us. Have a great day.